Hi, good evening. Welcome back to Cooking with Chief Tony. This is Chief Tony, and tonight we are going to be making some grilled chicken with a special sauce that I use. It's called Yoshida's. It's a sweet teriyaki sauce with a grilled zucchini and squash over white rice. So let's go ahead and get started real quick. I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So you always want to make sure that you're using soap. I have my dish soap right at the moment, but just go ahead and wash my hands before we get started. Again, I hope everybody's well. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Cooking with Chief Tony. Hey Theo, hey Pop, how's it going? All right, so again, tonight we're going to be making grilled chicken with a nice sweet and sour teriyaki sauce. And we're going to have some grilled zucchini with some nice squash and some white rice. So it's a quick and simple dinner. For my fellow Chiefs Mess out there, rocking the Chiefs Mess logo from Nos Riverside. Hopefully you can see that. So for my brothers and sisters of the mess, if you want me to go ahead and represent your Command shirt, hit me up and I will definitely display it on one of Cooking with Chief Tony's segments. So, alright guys, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to show you what we got going on here. So we've got our yellow squash, we got some zucchini. I went ahead and cut some up already, and I'll show you how I sliced them. We got some good chicken breast here. I went ahead and cut some up already, but I'm going to show you how I do this. I'm also going to show you how I measure my rice for cooking. So I use jasmine rice, but that's going to be up to you and how you use it. I've got a cup of white rice here, and I've got some water, and I'll show you how I measure it, because I don't measure it with the cup, with the actual cup. So yes, I try to do fresh as much as possible, and if I can't, then I do the next best thing, frozen. So I'm going to go ahead and turn you around here just so that way you can see what we have going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my zucchini, and I'm going to go ahead and use my bigger knife for this. So I'm just going to cut off the edges first, the ends first. That's good to know, Dad. That's good to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut these into strips. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this, and I'm just going to cut right down the center. Okay, now you can use a big knife, you can use a smaller knife. I just happen to have this one here just in case. But I think I'm just going to stick with my big knife. So I've got my two halves here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut it down, and I'm going to make it in smaller strips. Now you can either hold it and cut it that way, or you can literally take a smaller knife like this, and I move this down just a little bit so you can actually slice it a little bit better. So if you hold it like this, pick the center, and then you'll just move it down like that. So then you have good, nice little halves here. So I'll go ahead and do this. Slice down the center. For my medical people out there, it's just like making an incision. You just press down firmly, and then take it right down the center. So, and then for my non-medical folks, that's kind of how we that's how we cut people up. So we have this going on. So I'm breaking it down just because I want it to cook a little quicker, and when I cook it, it'll cook a little quicker, and it will also get that nice, and we want to have a nice and even cook throughout. If it's not thin enough, then it could, still be raw in certain areas. Hey Mama Rosie, how's it going? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to slice down the center, and I just split it apart, and as you can see, it's not that thick. I mean, in some areas it might be just a little bit. You can always cut that down. You can always make them into smaller strips if you wanted. I just tend to like them a little bit longer that way. So I've gone ahead and I've squashed. I've done some of my squash. I did it the same way that I did this. Hi, Theo. So this is my yellow squash, which I love. I love yellow squash. I'm just going to grill it. Again, I'm going to go ahead on the stove. Actually, I have one of the mini grills that I can put on the stove. Just cut off the ends. I'm going to go ahead and toss that in the sink. I'll clean it up later. And then I'm just going to cut it down the center. And then it'll split like that. And I'm going to go ahead and take it again, and I'm just going to cut it down that way. So then it's now become 2. And I will go ahead and cut it again. Remember, be careful. In everything you do, be careful. This can sometimes stick a little bit, so you want to make sure you are being careful. That's why I use a little bit bigger knife, my bigger knife when I'm using this one, or when I cut the squash. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that down a little bit more. So, Mama Rosie, I am making grilled chicken with this nice sweet and sour, or sweet teriyaki sauce, excuse me. And I'm going to make some white rice, and I'm making grilled zucchini with squash, yellow squash. It's okay. I think we all kind of worked today. I worked today at the VA. So for those that don't know, I'm in charge of the COVID testing for the VA here in Las Vegas. So I ended up working today, and then I worked getting some other stuff done for the Navy and stuff like that. For those that don't know, I'm also a Navy reservist, so always doing stuff for our sailors. So anyway, so I've gone ahead and I've cut this down into a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and continue to cut. So as I stated before, I had already cut some previously. I'm just showing you how I do this. You can make them as thick slices, or you can make them as little as you want. I just went ahead and cut those. That's what it looks like. So I think it's nice. It's thick enough because it will shrink. So you don't want them too thin because it is mostly water. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my zucchini real quick, just because there's only one left. I want to make sure that we get good use out of everything. As Mama Rosie says, I am a hoarder. And I don't throw anything away, and she's right. So I would keep this in the refrigerator and probably never use it. I do feel a little bit better. Thank you, Pop. So for those that don't know, I had a little medical stuff going on. Nothing to be too concerned about, but you got to stay healthy. You got to keep fit and everything else. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and continue to cut here. And then we've got this. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse my hands real quick, and then I'll show you what we just did, because we literally did it looks a lot more than what was actually here. So that was the extra one that I just did. There is our yellow squash. So I did 2 yellow squash. It was fresh produce from the local market. And then here is our chicken that we're about to cut up here in just a moment. So as you can see at the bottom, I did some slices already. And for those that don't know, so I have some Yoshidas. This is a sweet teriyaki sauce. It's a good marinade and cooking sauce. So I fell in love with it. I had a roommate who used to cook with it all the time, fell in love with it. And it is just amazing. So it is when I do make teriyaki chicken, that is one thing that I do use for this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn you here real quick. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to cut the chicken. So as I stated previously, here is, let me drain it real quick. So here is some of the sliced chicken that I had already cut up. So you don't want too thick, you don't want too thin either. So hands. So I'm just going to go ahead and slice. I'm going to cut that down a little bit. You want to make sure you trim the fat, if at all possible. If there's fat on here, trim it off. If you can pull it off, pull it off. I'd pull it off if I can. If not, cut it off. Okay, and then one good. So then I come out with my nice slices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again rinse my hands. And again, I hope everybody's doing well. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and turn on my rice real quick before I actually get my meat going, because the rice is what's going to take the longest to cook. So again, I use jasmine rice. It's a sticky rice. This one is Thai. You can use Japanese or Chinese. I prefer to use Japanese, but jasmine rice also works well. So again, I've got 1 cup. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pour some of the water that I have in here, just so I can get the rest of this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swish this around just a little bit. I'm going to pour it right in here. Okay, and how I'm measuring this is I'm going to take my finger, and I just washed it so everybody saw. It goes up to the first knuckle on your finger. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that sit there. Okay, and then the rest, I'm just going to go ahead and turn that on to a medium-high heat. And I'm going to go ahead and cover it up. Now this is a Salad Master. For those that know, Salad Master is a low heat, high pressure cooker. So it doesn't take a lot for it to cook. So you want to go ahead and cook your rice just as you normally would. You want to make sure that you boil it for about 15 minutes. And then you want to let it sit for about another 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. So I've already turned that on. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my little griddle on, and I'm going to turn on both burners, and I'm going to do a medium high heat, and I'm just going to feel over the top, and I'm just going to let that warm up. While I'm letting that warm up a little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and get one of my forks out, because I love to use my forks when it comes to using raw meat, because I have a set of tongs, but I don't want to get them dirty necessarily, just because I've already, I'm going to be using them for the cooked chicken in a little bit. So what I have here is I have my chicken. I have some olive oil. I'm not going to put a whole lot of olive oil on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some salt and pepper on there. I'm going to go light on the salt, because the reason being is because the Yoshida's, the sweet teriyaki sauce, has a lot in it already. So I'm going to use very little, if any at all, when it comes to my chicken. So again, we're going to go back. So I've got my salt, I've got my pepper, I've got my olive oil, I've got my chicken, and I'm just putting my hand over. I'm feeling the warmth coming up, and I'm just going to let it continue to warm up a little bit. I'm waiting for my little top here to start flickering. So what I'm going to do right at the moment is I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of olive oil just on the top, because I'm just going to drizzle that a little bit. And there's 2 chicken breasts here, so I have to be careful with, not only just using too much oil, but I also don't want to use a whole lot of oil just for the 2 chicken breasts. So, and it's not a whole lot. It's not healthy to use a whole lot anyway. So you just want to use a tiny drizzle, which I did. I'm just going to go ahead and mix this just a little bit. And I'm going to season it now. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pepper. Now, if you can handle a high salt content, I'm just going to put a tiny bit. There, that's it. That is literally all I'm going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and mix this up. You want to make sure you get both sides. Mix this in very well. I hear my little pot over here. It's starting to talk to me. So I've got this mixed up, almost ready to go. So I'm going to let that steam over here for a little bit. Tony does not have a rice cooker, so I got to do it the old-fashioned way. Anyway, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn you around here. So I'm just going to, this is what it looks like. We've got some pepper. We got a little bit of salt. Now you can actually put, and actually I'm going to do that. So here in my pantry, this is my pantry. I'm going to go ahead and put some onion powder on here, just a little bit, to give it a little extra flavor. I love onions, and so I like a little onion powder. Now, can you put minced garlic in here? Yes. Can you put garlic salt? Yes. Can you put, you know, a mixed array of other things? Absolutely. But I'm trying to keep it a little bit simple these days. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to mix this just a little bit. Add a little bit more here just to make sure I get everything. And I'm just sprinkling over the top. And again, this is the onion powder. So, okay. So my little top tells me over here it's like a tea kettle. I'm going to go ahead and turn that down on low because that's where it cooks the best. I'm watching the time right now, so it's just now finishing, or it's boiling now, so I'm just going to let it stop talking to me. And I'm going to go ahead and put this over here. I'll go ahead and show you. So I'm going to go ahead and take my chicken. Remember, it's on that medium-high heat, so it's going to cook fairly quickly. So you got to watch it. I'm actually going to turn it down just a little bit because we wanted to heat it up, but we don't want it to burn. So I'm going to use a medium low heat to continue the cooking. And I'm actually going to dump the rest of that out here. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get my veggies ready. So again, I've got my squash, and I've got my zucchini, and I'm going to go ahead and take these bad boys over to the stove area, and I'm going to get them ready. And so like I said, you want to turn it down. You don't want to cook it too fast. You want to cook it just right, but you don't want to cook it too fast. So alright, so I'm going to go ahead and grab just a little bit more of my zucchini here. I got a lot of zucchini, which is good. Alright, so let's take a look at what we got going on here. So this is what here we got. Not quite. Getting there. Yep, there we go. Now you can use Pam on your pans. I don't like to use Pam. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mama Rosie. Okay. So I'm just going to continue to let that cook. So I'm going to go ahead and let that finish cooking here just a little bit. The rice is still cooking, as you can see. It's over here, bubbling away. And I've got my stuff over here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this back here in the back. Put some of my zucchini over here. So I'm just going to let that continue to cook a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to continue to let that cook. So, I hope everybody is well. Again, you know, this is probably I think it's one of my more healthier meals, especially if you don't use a whole lot of salt, if you don't use a whole lot of the Yoshidas, because like I said, the Yoshidas is going to be a little bit salty as it is, and it's going to be sweet. And for those that know me, I don't eat a whole lot of sugar. I don't like a whole lot of sugar. So it can be a little sweet for those that don't. And I want to get some good color on this, so I'm just letting it sit. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to let that cook. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn. I'm not going to use the same fork. You can if you want. And you want to make sure it's cooked good on all sides. And down it with a Pepsi. No, don't. Don't down it with a Pepsi. It's bad for you. So as you can see, our vegetables are grilling. Our chicken is getting there. And again, you want to make sure that you have your... So if your chicken is juicing like this, still it's not quite ready. Not quite yet, but almost. So I'm going to let that sit for just a little bit. I'm going to continue to let all the veggies cook. I'm actually going to move the chicken up a little bit closer together so I can get more veggies on the grill, because I'm actually more interested in the veggies right at the moment. So for all my vegan eaters, you can skip the chicken and you can just use your grill to make your veggies and use your rice. I know you love Pepsi and it's bad for you. So I'm just going to continue to let that finish here. I'm just going to use my tongs now. And I love color, but I definitely love my veggies grilled. Now I'm cooking it over some of the other chicken, so some of the grease from the olive oil and some of the flavor from the chicken is actually going to seep into the veggies as well, which will also help it cook it and steam it at the same time. And it smells amazing in here. So sea story time, right? So, and for those that don't know what a sea story is, for those that are in the Navy, they'll know exactly what it is. Sea story is just a story from a sailor's life in the Navy that they share with younger sailors, and whether it's parting wisdom, it's usually parting wisdom, or telling about a drinking story or something like that. But so one of my sea stories about this is actually one of my favorite meals that I picked up when I was stationed in Japan, in Okinawa for 3 years. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And This was one of the local houses in Kintown. They used to make stuff like this, and so this is where I picked it up. Well, you should come over to the house, Pop. I got food for you. So, but yes, it was one of my favorite meals when I was stationed in Japan. And I was stationed in Japan from 2007 to 2010, campaigns in Okinawa, Japan. And I loved it. And I've toured, I've been through Tokyo, Hiroshima, and all the little towns. And it's so cool because, you know, we think here in the United States that we've had sushi and stuff like that. You haven't had it until you've been there. And I get so frustrated with sushi here in the United States because of that. I've been very spoiled. So, alright, so here's what we got going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my fan because it's getting a little smoke in here, which that's expected. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and let that cook. So what I'm going to do in the meantime, so I'm going to go ahead and come over here and I'm going to grab one of my bowls because I'm going to put this in a bowl as it finishes. I'm going to go ahead and protect it, but I'm going to dry it out or set it in a little plastic bowl. So I'm going to use a paper towel. I'm going to set it here in my bowl. I'm going to fold it in half and just set it here. That's just kind of what I do. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it in here when it's finished. So as you can see, we got some good color going on here. There we go. That looks and smells awesome. I'm so excited. So a good test for me, how I test my chicken, if it's finished, again, is I push on it, and if it still has juice coming out of it, it's not done. So, and you don't want it to dry out either. So that's also the other thing. You don't want it to dry out. So just be careful in how long you leave it on. So I'm going to give this one another moment or two. I'm just going to take these little pieces off, because again, you don't want it to burn. So I'm going to go ahead and take that piece off. That's what that looks like. I'm going to flip that one over, and that will be done in just a few moments. I'm going to move this one down just a little bit. So as you can see, we're starting to finish up here. Okay, so I'm going to turn my rice off now because it's already been 15 minutes. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm just going to let it sit. Ah, there we go. What are you guys having for dinner? And that's what we got here. That's what it looks like, and it looks delicious. Again, I like a little more color than probably some people. Some people probably like a little bit more than me, but I'm just going to go ahead and continue to cook this. Now, as it cooks, you'll notice like little pieces come off here and there. They will come off eventually. So I'm just going to move this stuff over, because I'm going to add more to the grill in just a moment. I'm going to let those cook in the center, because it has a little bit more heat, obviously. add more. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and pull some of this off. Because it's finished. So I'm going to go ahead and head over to my plate. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready to plate it. So I went ahead and in advance I went ahead and made some rice. So I'm actually going to show you what that looks like. So again, you want to make sure that it's nice and soft. And I'm going to go ahead and get my little rice spoon. And I'm going to go ahead and... Wait, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and take some out. I'm not going to do a whole lot, but I've got just enough. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. So I went ahead and just put some rice here, and I'm just going to kind of put it around like that. And I'm going to go ahead and head back over here. And I'm going to turn some of my chicken here. So our chicken looks like it's almost finished, at least most of it is. So I'm going to go ahead and plate some of my vegetables here. So we got some good color going on, some yellow, some green. And I'm going to take some of my chicken, and I'm going to place it on top. Doesn't need to be a whole lot. It can be all of it. And, you know, if you want to cook your whole chicken breast, that's cool too. I just like to break it down into little bits. And then I'm going to turn off the stove. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out our Yoshidas here. And I'm going to go ahead and open us up a nice bottle of Yoshidas, or our teriyaki sauce. And a little bit goes a long way. So, and there you go, guys. Our grilled chicken with our sweet teriyaki sauce with some nice grilled vegetables. Let's have some zucchini and some squash. Let's take a bite. Perfect. And that's our chicken. It's cooked all the way through with some nice Yoshidas sauce. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a bite and mix the rice a little bit. Perfecto. Alright guys, that's it. That was tonight's segment. Try and eat healthy, be better. Eat better to be better. Alright guys, well, thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Stay safe, be healthy, be happy. Good night.